On a quiet morning, a small crow landed on the rough bark of an old village tree. A breeze carried the smell of pond water and cooking rice, and somewhere a bell rang, thin and far away. From his branch, the crow watched a swan glide over the pale surface of a pond. Villagers gathered, pointing at the swan's brilliant white and whispering the soft words people use for beautiful things. When the crow fluttered closer only to greet them, their hands rose, shooing him as if darkness itself had settled on the fence. His chest tightened. He hopped to another branch, but the same hands followed, the same faces pulled tight. If only I were white, he thought. If only my feathers could borrow the brightness of the swan, perhaps I could borrow its happiness too. He flew to the forest with a heavy heart, and settled where the light fell in sifting shards. Tears came awkward, bird-like, surprised. An old crow perched nearby, and asked in a patient voice why the morning had grown so bitter. The young one spoke of black feathers, and the way people stare when they do not want you. The elder listened, as elders do, holding space the way a bowl holds water. Before you change, ask what you wish to become, the old crow said gently. Go back, speak to the swan. Ask if beauty knows contentment. The young crow hesitated, then nodded. He did not know it yet, but the old one had given him the first of many thresholds. The courage to ask, rather than assume. To step out of the narrow corridor of comparison and into the wider house of understanding. So he returned to the pond. Up close, the swan's feathers were a winter morning clean, untroubled, but her eyes held a different weather. You must be the happiest in the village, the crow said softly. Everyone admires you. Are you happy? The swan lowered her gaze. I am praised, she answered, but I am not free. People would keep me where water is shallow and fences are high. Beauty is a soft chain around the ankle. The crow felt the first small crack in his certainty. If even a swan could feel caged inside admiration, what exactly was he chasing? In another age, this might have been a simple fable, but in the lives of elders, of widowers who scroll family photos on old phones, of grandmothers who read neighborhood gossip more than they read the weather, comparison takes on a subtler shape. They compare seasons. The body as it was, the body as it is, the house when it rang with voices, the house that now hums with a single kettle. The Buddha called this ache dukkha, the friction that comes when the mind insists the world should be any way but the way it is. Comparison is one of its favorite disguises. A warm, slow practice can help. 3 mindful breaths before breakfast, 1 memory named with gratitude while the tea cools, the hand placed gently on the heart when envy stirs. This is a human feeling. May I meet it with kindness. In that moment, the crow's story becomes a mirror. Praise is not peace, appearance is not freedom, and freedom is closer to the simple permission to be as one is, to move as one needs. The young crow thanked the swan, and lifted into air, made brighter by the truth he had just heard. He had not changed his color, but something inside had shifted like a beam in an old house settling into a truer line. He would keep searching, because questions asked with a steady heart are a kind of pilgrimage. Somewhere ahead, perhaps perched beside a parrot's bright laughter, or a peacock's solemn dance, he would learn the rest. For now, the morning opened like a path. The crow carried the swan's words like a pebble in his chest, small but heavy. If the swan, adorned in whiteness, was not at peace, then where could peace be found? His wings beat slowly as he searched, until a flash of green and gold caught his eye. Perched on a slender branch, a parrot tilted its head, its feathers blazing with sunlight. Children below clapped and pointed, their laughter loud. The crow, heart quickened with new hope, flew closer. Friend parrot, he said, your feathers are brighter than any jewel. Surely you are the happiest of us all. The parrot's eyes, though vivid, dimmed at once. Happiness? My colors are my prison. Because of them, humans trap me in cages. I spend my days repeating their words, my wings aching for flight I cannot take. Praise is not the same as freedom. The crow shivered. Once again, what looked radiant from afar revealed sorrow when touched. He flew on, restless, until he reached a wide place where fences rose like silent guards. Inside, beneath the gaze of countless visitors, a peacock unfurled its glory. Feathers shimmered with eyes of blue and emerald, each plume like a small universe. The crowd gasped, whispered, pressed closer with delight. Awed, the crow asked, surely, peacock, You are the happiest bird alive. The world stops when you open your feathers. The peacock lowered his head. What the world adores, it also steals. They pluck my feathers, again and again, until I bleed. My beauty makes me a prisoner. I look magnificent, but I live with pain. Sometimes I envy you, crow, for you wander where you wish. No one follows you with cages or knives. The crow's breath caught. He had not expected envy to be returned. In that moment, the meaning of freedom shifted. What he had dismissed as loneliness might actually be a rare gift. For the elders who sit in quiet afternoons, these images echo something close. The neighbor with more children, the friend whose pension seems larger, the sister whose health seems stronger. Each life looks enviable until its private ache is revealed. Comparison is a mirage, a trick of distance. The old Buddhist masters remind us, do not compare, do not compete. Walk your path, as rain falls, as grass grows. A widow might say, at least I can rise each morning and water the plants. A widower may whisper, at least I still hear the birds. These small recognitions are not resignation but gentle victories. Gratitude, like a soft hand, lifts the heart out of the thorns of envy. The crow, listening to the peacock's lament, was learning what elders have long known. Peace does not come from feathers, whether black, white, green, or blue. It comes from the quiet permission to live as one already is. When he returned to the forest, the old crow was waiting, as though wisdom always knew where the young would circle back. The younger one bowed his head. I have traveled far. I wanted to change everything about me, but now I see every bird carries its own burden. Freedom was in me all along. The elder nodded. Then you have bathed in the truest spring, not water, but understanding. Together, they watched the sun fold itself into the horizon, a simple, unremarkable evening. Yet, in the crow's chest, something radiant stirred, not the brightness of borrowed feathers, but the lightness of acceptance. The next morning, the crow rose before dawn. The world was still hushed, the pond quiet as a mirror. He perched on a high branch and let the first rays of light touch his dark feathers. They glistened faintly black, yes, but also blue where the sun found them, deep as midnight and strong as stone. For the first time, he did not wish them away. Instead, he spread his wings and flew wide circles above the village. Below, people busied themselves with daily life, some glancing up briefly before returning to their tasks. No hands waved to chase him. No crowd gathered to praise him, and it was enough. He belonged not to their opinions, but to the sky itself. As days passed, he no longer sought out swans, parrots, or peacocks. He greeted them kindly when paths crossed, but carried no hunger for their feathers. Instead, he noticed things once invisible, how the air felt cooler above the river, how the scent of jasmine rose at twilight, how his wings carried him to places no cage could hold. Even loneliness seemed softer, more like space than emptiness. To fly, he thought, is to know happiness that no mirror or admirer can give. In the lives of elders this turning is familiar. Once, perhaps, they measured themselves against neighbors, the richer harvest, the healthier body, the fuller house. But with years, they begin to see through the shimmer. A granddaughter's laughter on a video call, a warm bowl of rice at dusk, the slow strength of breath in meditation. These become jewels that no one can pluck away. The Buddha often taught, freedom is not found in getting more, but in needing less. Gratitude is the gate, and presence is the path. The crow, wiser now, returned often to the old teacher who had first asked him to inquire before wishing. Together they sat in silence, watching other birds come and go. No judgment, no envy, only a quiet companionship that needed no feathers to shine. The younger crow understood that happiness was never in the color of his wings, but in the freedom of his flight, the awareness of each moment, and the kindness he could carry in his small heart. He whispered to himself, I am a crow, and I am enough. The story closes, but it does not end. It is a mirror left open for the listener, to notice where comparison weighs heavy, and to ask, what if freedom has been with you all along? Seasons passed, and the crow grew older. His wings were not as strong, his flights not as long, yet his heart had learned a rhythm the young could not yet hear. Sometimes he would perch at the edge of the village, watching children play. Their laughter rose like bright banners, But he also noticed the moments when one child frowned, comparing their toy to another's, their meal to a neighbor's. He saw himself in them, the young crow who once wished to be white, or green, or radiant with eyes of blue. With a soft caw, he wished silently, May they learn sooner than I did, that no feather, no praise, no mirror can bring the peace they seek. On evenings, when the sky flushed with crimson, he would return to the elder crow. They did not speak often, for silence had become their truest language. But once, under a moon that silvered the trees, the elder murmured, Do you see now? All along, you carried your gift, not in color, not in applause, but in freedom. And freedom, when embraced, ripens into joy. The younger bowed his head. I see, and I will remember. For those who listen, especially the aged who sit at their own twilight, the tale is more than feathers and wings. It is about the human heart that forever wonders. Am I enough? Life's advertisements, neighbors' fortunes, the shine of youth we once carried all tempt us to forget the ground we already stand upon. Yet in meditation, in prayer, or simply in the quiet act of breathing, there is a reminder. Joy is not a thing to borrow from another life. It is the steady flame that flickers even when no one looks. So the crow lived out his days, not in longing but in flight. His feathers remained black, yet to his eyes they glowed with colors no one else needed to see. The wind was his companion, the sky his endless home. He had asked, he had compared, he had envied, and finally he had understood. And in that understanding, he was free. Some stories end with triumph, others with loss. This one ends with neither, but with an opening, a question turned toward you, the listener. When you next feel the pull to compare, pause, place a hand upon your chest. Remember the crow, the swan, the parrot, the peacock. Remember that even in feathers plain and uncelebrated, there is a freedom no cage can hold. And perhaps whisper softly, I am as I am, and I am enough,